A new Dragon Ball anime is always cause for excitement, but fans have responded to the announcement of next year's Dragon Ball Daima with some skepticism. The reason, this time around, the entire cast has been transformed into small children. Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, even Chi-Chi's dad. It's kinda weird, and it definitely came out of left field, especially for anybody expecting a continuation of Dragon Ball Super. For fans of Dragon Ball Z and Super's epic earth-shaking battles, this juvenile premise is a little hard to take seriously, but I have a sneaking suspicion that's kinda the whole point. If this wasn't what you were wishing for, let me tell you why I personally think some pint-sized hijinks could breathe new life into the Dragon Ball franchise, attract a whole new generation of fans, and also pay homage to what made Goku so beloved in the first place. For the most part, cartoon characters don't get older, even if the people who still watch cartoons do. One notable exception is Dragon Ball. In the almost 40 years since his debut, we've watched Goku undergo numerous transformations. He's turned into a giant ape, numerous flavors, degrees, and shades of Super Saiyan, and way before Daima, he already got mystically infantilized once in Dragon Ball GT, which is no longer canon, but hey, who's keeping track? However, arguably the boldest and most underappreciated change made to his character was the choice to turn him from a goofy little kid into a full-grown adult superhero.
I am the answer to all living things that cry out for peace.
In the mid-80s, the Dragon Ball manga had spawned a hit anime series, multiple movies, and a pile of merchandise featuring that lovable scamp Goku, so it's no surprise that its sole creator, Akira Toriyama, was met with some resistance when he floated the idea of making the main character hit puberty. But it worked. The Dragon Ball anime tacked on the Z to mark Goku's transformation from a cherubic tot to a muscle-bound adult warrior, while continuing his usual adventures, business as usual, and the rest is history.
I saw an opening that seemed to scream out attacks, so I did.
Like a lot of Western Dragon Ball fans, I got hooked on Dragon Ball Z when it aired on Toonami in the late 90s, and I tuned in religiously. Did I fill a Trapper Keeper with fan art? You betcha! Did I dye my hair lavender to look like future Trunks with mixed results? Yeah, I did. Did I sob uncontrollably when Vegeta sacrificed himself to blow up Boo because I had a lot of unresolved issues with my father? Maybe. None of your business.
You've made me proud.
Anyway, back then, the entire series had already aired in Japan, so it wasn't really hard to find out what would happen next episode by perusing a bunch of poorly designed fan sites or by watching bootleg VCDs you bought off of eBay. Spoilers were fun, but I was always more curious to learn what happened before Z in the Dragon Ball episodes that hadn't yet been localized. Why did Piccolo start out hating Goku? What was the Red Ribbon Army? Who the hell is Yajirobe, and why do people put up with him?
You're strange, and they say I'm primitive.
In trying to find answers, I also discovered the charm of the original series and fell in love with that too. I was still very invested in the epic battles of Z, but Goku's childhood adventures gave me a new appreciation for the show's sense of humor.
Do you think 3 years is enough time for you to get happy?
And that, in particular, is what I really hope we get more of from Daima, and it's why I'm excited about this new project. It's hard to say from the very little that's been shown, but at the very least, it's definitely going to involve small children beating the crap out of people much larger than them, which is kind of a staple of classic Dragon Ball. Most people associate Dragon Ball with yoked out dudes throwing neon blue explosions at each other and screaming so hard that they get Guy Fieri hair. But that's not all it is. I've described Dragon Ball's overall progression as if 1960s Looney Tunes cartoons somehow escalated into 1990s X-Men comics. It starts out with slapstick comedy and lowbrow jokes, and by the end, characters are getting killed off left and right, and the fate of the galaxy hangs in the balance. Just as Dragon Ball has its share of action, Dragon Ball Z has its share of comedy, but the former is an undeniably sillier show, and the conflicts are often resolved with punch lines rather than just punching.
Am I too fast for you, Goku?
Bulma holds Oolong the shape-shifting pig hostage by feeding him a candy that makes him get diarrhea whenever she whistles. Krillin wins a fight with a guy who's too stinky to touch after remembering that he himself doesn't actually have a nose and therefore can't actually smell him. Jackie Chun casually blows up the moon to defeat Goku after he's turned into a giant were-ape. That seems like the kind of thing that would have lasting repercussions, but not so much. It's a cartoon.
The moon! It's gone!
One of the biggest issues in Z, GT, and Super is the constant escalation. Trying to become the strongest guy around is Goku and company's entire deal, but the power creep is also where the cracks start to show. The constant raising of stakes and power levels, new transformations, alternate forms, fusions, special moves, etc., that's the stuff that gets fans hyped up, but after a certain point, Goku's hair turning a different color feels a little like the same old Malibu Stacy doll getting re-released with a new hat. What happens when a character in Dragon Ball discovers a new form? Well, obviously they get more powerful. What happens when you turn them into kids? How does that shake things up? That's what I'm really curious to find out. In the trailer, Goku has his power pole once again, and Toriyama has teased different than usual battles that are cute and powerful. Cute probably isn't what a lot of DBZ fans want from the fight scenes, but I imagine it got the attention of fans of classic Dragon Ball, as well as Toriyama's other work like Dr. Slump and Sandland. Meanwhile, Toriyama has stated that he's more involved with Daima than usual, and if it's something he's invested in, I'm willing to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. The last time he threw this big of a monkey wrench into Dragon Ball's established rule set, we got Dragon Ball Z out of it. There's a lot of Toriyama's classic Dragon Ball humor in Super, but it's also continued the power creep that Z suffered from. Goku and Vegeta are so strong that the show had to dig into multiple alternate timelines and universes to find people on their level for them to fight. Daima still might and likely will introduce some powerful new bad guys, but the fact that its heroes have also been sent back to repeat a few grades adds an additional vertical challenge we haven't seen before. Now, I too am rapidly approaching the Z portion of my life, and if this is a Dragon Ball show for little kids, that's fine with me. I have a toddler and she loves Goku, which is something we have in common. She actually said the name Goku before she said her own name, which is vaguely concerning about my parenting skills, but that's another story. Unsurprisingly, my kid is more interested in the version of Goku who's a curious child like herself, rather than a tired old guy like me who yells a lot.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
These days, watching Goku discover yet another Super Saiyan form isn't as exciting as watching my kid take an interest in something that I love, and I have a sneaking suspicion I'm not the only Dragon Ball fan who shares these sentiments. Is that a cornball cop-out reason to give a piece of pop culture a pass when it comes to valid criticism? Absolutely! But one perk to becoming a parent is you're way more sentimental about really stupid stuff, and you're usually too tired to care what other people think.
He's a baby now. Is that okay?
Okay.
When a cartoon has been around for 40 years, it's not unheard of for it to try and reach a new audience. I could be totally off base here, and Dragon Ball Daima might wind up being the same kind of desperate pandering reinvention that gave us shows like Muppet Babies, A Pup Named Scooby-Doo, or Tom and Jerry Kids, but at the very least, we have the original creator to blame for it, so maybe it'll be like the Star Wars prequels, something that hardcore fans hate for 20 years before a new generation is old enough to be nostalgic for it and they come to its defense. At the very least, I'm happy that Toriyama isn't afraid to let Goku grow up or to be a kid again, and I'm just happy the guy's still making new Dragon Ball stuff. Goku's a timeless character. He's like that old friend that you can not talk to for 5 years and then immediately pick up where you left off, regardless how much everything else has changed. Conversely, somebody like, I don't know, Homer Simpson, he's been in his mid to late 30s since I was 3 years old, and he's still in his mid to late 30s. So he's kind of like an estranged relative who's being kept on life support, but that is a cloud to yell at another day. In the meantime, I'm excited about that little fluffy yellow cloud that Goku rides around on.
You don't eat it, you little baboon!
Anyway, Dragon Ball Daima is still a ways off, and my read on it could be way off as well, but one thing is for sure, dare I say it, being this excited for a new Dragon Ball anime makes me feel like a kid again too. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. What do you think? Let me know in the comments, and of course, for all of your favorite pop culture properties that are very, very old and still refuse to die, keep it right here on IGN.